Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? More Tauri V2 stuff. I moved my camera around a little bit. It's a little bit dark, actually. A little bit dark. I bumped it up just a little bit. Or is it just me? Am I just imagining it? Sometimes hard to tell. Better? I think it's just black shirt as well. Hey Denjel, how's it going? Good to see you. Good to see you. Speaking of previous conversations that are at the moment private, this is the app that I'm looking at. We are in the process of updating or migrating it to V2. We got I'm guessing like 95% of the way there, and there's an issue with I'm guessing it's the events. There was the updates on the events. I need to finish updating that or making that conversion over. But I thought it would be a good place to like stop and dig into that specifically. So that's what we're gonna do today. I think that's about it. Let's bounce on over. I realized I was already like highlighting on my screen and getting ahead of myself. Too much caffeine today, I guess. So we got through. We went through the full upgrade from Tauri V1. Nearly, at least for this specific app. We are looking at, go ahead and drop a link in the chat. Paste. So this app is, I mean, you can see I haven't actually committed to the main branch for a while. And actually, I think I have a couple things stashed from previous streams. We've definitely worked on it. I haven't actually committed the code that we worked on last time for time reasons, but also it doesn't quite work yet. So the goal today, though, will be get it working and get the commit up. And then I think I have another like 2 or 3 commits. Or 2 or 3 PRs after that, and that would be useful for opening up the PRs, making sure they're up to date for V2, obviously, and then can get chain a couple updates together, which might lead into further topics. But today, let's go ahead and go look at the upgrade from Tauri Mobile. So the event system. Instead of relying on the source of the event, it now has a simpler implementation that relies on targets. So I think there's this and the commands. I don't know that the commands have specifically changed too much, but I do want to, potentially as like a stretch goal, I do want to get into how that communication changes. And part of that change, let's go ahead and look at the announcement that Lucas published. This part. So we sort of have the 2 pieces. We have the event system has been updated, and the IPC has been revamped, which is mostly what is handling the commands. So those are going to be kind of the 2 pieces that we look at today. But specifically, I want to get into the event system now, because that's what's not working. Let's read through this first. Hi. I'm going to say hi. Come on up. Because, yeah, you get kitty tail at least. All right. The emit function now emits the event to all event listeners. This cord behind my back, so she has a thing for biting my cords when they're. Event function now emits the event to all event listeners. So if we go ahead and look at our code here, we have this colors.html. This is the file that is opened up in the additional windows. So the functionality of this app is you have a main window, you click a button, and it creates a new window. You can color that any number of those secondary windows, any color you want. The idea being that like I could put a square over this to redact part of the information. Questionable use case, but it was a good way to. Now I have cat fur all over me. Kitty, yes you. Well, downside of black shirts. At least with cats. Hi, you're back again, aren't you? So this is opened up. Anytime you click create new window, we're getting, or I don't remember what verb I had for the button, but the creating the window opens up a new window with this HTML file, and we're doing listen on the window. So we're using this API, so we don't have to. It's basically pre-bundled. We don't need npm to do any bundle step before and do this, like set this up for us. So we don't need to do much here. All we're doing is handling color changes. So we don't have to have like a separate bundle step for that HTML file. We do have one for the main app though, which is here, and it pulls in this source main, which is a React app. Little tiny React app. We don't really need React there, but that's what we got. So the emit function now emits the event to all event listeners. So I don't know how that added a new emit to function to trigger an event to a specific target. So when we do okay. So if we call, we had started poking around with it. If we, prior to this, we were calling webview.emit. And webview.emit, we could emit this event. And we were calling it off of the new WebView window, which had the window ID attached to it. And those pieces together is what determined like the target that the event was being sent to. Hey Simon, good to see you. Good to see you. We got a bunch of the team in chat today. Good to see that. Ivan, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I'm very happy that V2 beta was released. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm never going to be one to say that we need to rush it. But this mobile support was not insignificant, so it's good to see this. It's a good accomplishment. We'll put it that way. We're getting very close. We're into audit territory and make those docs real nice. So these pieces together, I think it was just emit. Those pieces together is what meant that we could fire off an event to target a specific window. So what this line is saying is that the event, the emit function now emits the event to all event listeners. So if I'm calling just webview.emit, it's sort of just a fired off to everything. There's a new separate function that I think this is kind of the previous functionality. So we're gonna have to look at the emit2. I tossed this in here, emit2. And side note, I think these are all the Rust commands, which is why you see them in snake case. Once you get into JavaScript land, you're probably gonna have what is that called? Not snake case, JavaScript version of what is it called? Proper Pascal camel case. Is it camel case? Camel case. There we go. Thank you. I was going through all the different cases. I'm like, oh, golly, what is it now? Camel cased version, and this is the snake cased version for Rust, which is the common idiom in Rust. There's this emit filter. This seems to previously have existed, but I don't think I've ever used it, and I don't think we've used it on stream. But it was tweaked slightly. We might take a peek at that, but I don't know that we're gonna need that at all. And then there's a listen global and that was renamed to listen any. So I think what I want to get in, we'll go over to the API docs in a second. But if we look at the emit2 function, we get a target and an event. We were emitting. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull up the old API. Yes. I actually, slight distraction. The kind of annoying thing is anytime we had to set the window, we had to like recreate this class to then emit to it. And I think that's why this API is going to be nicer, because we can emit to a specific target and we don't need to recreate the web view window. I think we can just use the current. And that's already going to be like we can have that saved as part of the state, which is going to be nice, or a reference to it. So I want to remind myself is probably the best way to say it, about some of this terminology. We have targets, but we have events, we have filters, and we have targets. So this is I don't think it's actually the target. Maybe? Label of the target window, yeah. So that's not the actual. I mean, it is entirely possible that hasn't been updated, because I thought this was the actual emit parameter target parameter event payload. Target event payload. What's interesting is this only has 2 args. I wonder if some of the docs got smushed together, because this is specifically for emit, but there's 3 args, which this looks like the args for the emit too. So I think this is called the event name. So the idea is, if we have a few windows, each window can serve as a target. So you can fire off an event targeting a specific window. Once that window receives the event, now you can use the event name. And I'm presuming that the emit filter kind of comes into play a little bit here too. But you can use that event name to sort of have different code paths. When you receive an event, if the event name is this, go down this code path. If the event name is this, go down this code path. And then the payload, once you've determined which code path that you're going, once you've hit the correct window and you've determined what code path you're going down, then you can use the payload to do the dynamically respond to whatever that event is. Let's take a look at the API. I don't think this is quite right. Which would explain why my quick switch to it probably wasn't sick, or that's part of the reason it wasn't successful. I'm definitely is references. Okay. I guess I like that. Usually what seems to be pretty common is like guides and then API. Additional references. I'm words are hard. I'm not particularly fond of references, but I could see why whoever decided to put that in there decided that. Emit should be directly the event name. Emit 2 should take the target first. Yeah. I think that's the... So if we look at the... I'm guessing this is coming from TypeScript, so whatever our TypeScript types are, the example within those TypeScript types appears to be for the emit, not the emit 2. Because emit should be the event name and then the payload, right? And emit 2 should take the target first. So like it feels like there's yeah, it looks like it's wrong. Because there's 3 args. The example here seems like it was overlooked. Cool, thanks Simon. I need to like I feel like I'm just like creating work for people, but that's also like part of the reason that I don't specifically dig into everything immediately is because it's useful to have separate eyes, and doing it live and doing it on stream means that I can record it and talk through it with everybody. I don't know. There's gonna be no perfect way to oh hey, look at that. Okay. Gotcha. Got it with it now. Okay. This makes sense. Okay, I'm with it now. The reasoning behind this is it is API references and there's additional references, which is also valuable. But this, when we switch to V2, there's still going to be people in V1. So like, we want to be able to still point to V1 somehow, or at least some of the V1. Hi, kitty. Yep. Very talkative too. Looks like someone copied the doc string from emit onto emit 2. Yeah. That was sort of the feeling that I was getting as well. I have to like. I was so. I'm gonna be full of cat hair. Oh well. Okay, JavaScript API. We want to look at API and event. The emit 2. Yeah, and here too. It looks like this is on the site, the main site too. Because this specifically says emit. So it looks like that example is just off. So our emit 2 should take a target first. The target is a label. It's a label of the target window, web view window, or raw event target object. So in our case, we're calling it set color window, or set window color, and then firing off a state update. Within our state, we are saving the ID, and that's going to be the window ID. So when we click on when we click on the button, we are passing it the color window.id. So we have that basically like the string reference to that specific window. The target appears to take label of the target. I'm presuming that means that we can do, I mean, it's a string. Okay, here this says string. So I think we can straight away avoid recreating that class every time, which is great. And I think we can do that up here too. I guess let's check that first, step at a time. npm where is it? Right here? Right there. nr is an alias to npm run. If you are new to the stream, that one, I've had that one for a while. I like to use that one. Did we get the window? Did it create the window? I'm looking at like every. I've got too many monitors. Way too many monitors. I can't stop. I bet you it's on this one. That's not even actually on the right input right now. Why would it show up in that? No, it can't be. No, it's not that one. Where is it? Did it not create it? Maybe it didn't create it. Window not found. Okay. Post. Add a request. Got it. Web view. Create web view window not allowed. Oh, did we? Yes. I remember now. So one of the last things that we did, where did it go? Sorry. Capabilities. I renamed this to foundation.json. One of the last things though that we had talked about on the stream was how I appreciated the changes and being able to handle the permissions. This ACL setup is a little bit more complex, but I think that is going to long-term be useful and valuable. But the fact that I think this is coming from the IPC change. In that change, we're able to, as part of the response, basically throw error messages, which is super helpful. So I think what I did was, is it going to be on here? No, I'm pretty sure I removed it because I was talking about it and we were saying that it's lovely to see that, and then I think I ended up removing it. Alright. Data didn't match any variant of untagged enum capability file. Oh. That makes sense. Did it? Let's see. Process did not. So we got a bunch of cargo things, and it says failed to parse JSON. Data did not match any variant of untagged enum capability file. I wonder if we can make that clear. So I also now lost my error message. Like if you just have any random data in there, or somebody copies something in there wrong, I wonder if it could be. I wonder if we could improve this error message. Speaking of error messages, was it Miet? How do you say it? Miet? That sounds right? No. Yes. Yep. No. Nope. Nope, not that. Really? Rust. There we go. Ah. 2 T's. This was added to like the main Rust language, wasn't it? It would be pretty cool if we could do some of this kind of stuff. This might not happen. This might not make sense to do now for V2, but with the more involved permission system, I suspect that that's going to end up being helpful. All right, let's look at this error message again. Bad request. Permissions associated with this command. Okay. So I copied the first bit. So this is the actual like permission. No. So this is the command. And it's saying that this is the permission associated with it. So I copied this. I should have been copying this. You were looking away for a sec. What did I want? Direct links from the schema for capabilities to the docs. No, not direct links. I think so. I've noticed a few people struggling to wrap their head around the ACL list. I find it pretty intuitive. And I'm not sure where the disconnect is for some people. But I think that something we will run into is that if somebody copy and pastes or puts in a wrong permission, right now it seems that our failure situation is this just failed to parse JSON. And I had said on the side, did I close it already? That Miet was merged into the main Rust project, and I think it would be kind of cool to use these types of errors where we could say, point to a specific spot or something in the JSON file and say that, hey, actually, no, this is a great example. They're literally parsing a JSON file. If we can literally say, here, that looks bad. That's the error, fix that. I think that will end up saving a lot of people. Because even me just saying that I felt it's intuitive, the error message, I copied the wrong bit from the error message. So now we should get, there we go, there's our window. And it is not emitting the event. Web view is not defined. Okay. On line 62. That looks really good. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever actually used it directly, but any have I? I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I've definitely used libs or used code that had it already set up and like the error messages from it. I mean, cargo, as you know, Simon, cargoes in Rust is already really great with their error messages. This type of stuff takes it to a whole nother level. I think specifically though for parsing JSON that's potentially going to help us, especially if like it's literally just implementing Miet and copying an example, because it is literally their first example. That might actually be worth it. Struct. My bad. So it looks like they're just parsing text here. Yeah, so I mean, something to think about. I'm fully, at this point, I'm fully not expecting anything like new to really land. But this could potentially be something like, especially if as we sort of see more and understand more where people are struggling or where they hit roadblocks that they can't get themselves past. You know, 2.1, 2.2 or whatever, we can start to write better error messages around that to help guide them. Okay. We had an error. We had. What do you need? Why? Okay. Oh no. Oh no. Just look for scratches. You want to say hi? Say hi. Tail in the face. All right, 62. So WebView that was the thing I missed. Yeah. Cute, but she can be very needy. She is a big cuddler. And she's gotten the passive aggressive meow down. I'm like, hello, I'm here. You're not giving me enough attention, despite you being here with me the whole day. I need scratches. Anyways, okay, so WebView, we don't have that defined anymore. So we're getting rid of this WebView window, instantiating the new class of that because we can pass the string now. And like if we were looking at the example, our example was, no, it's not in here. Kitty, you're bumping me all the time, over and over here. Emit to, I just changed that, so that's not gonna be there. I'm pretty sure we can just use like the current window. So I just need a handle to the window. So if let's go over to references, JavaScript API window. Like I think we just do get current. Are we handling Windows, set Windows? So Windows ends up being an array of this is where TypeScript is. One of the nice things of TypeScript. Past me just set that to an array, which makes sense, but now I gotta go, okay, what is expected to be in that array? And now I need to remind myself. So we are setting an ID, a color, and an alpha. So the window ID ends up being the ID that we pass to the new WebView window. So when we create the WebView, that's the ID. And this is a nice thing too, actually. So part of like instantiating the new class, that creates the window. So the fact that I can emit and give it an ID for just a string doesn't mean I'm accidentally going to create a new window, because I've definitely done that before. So yeah, we got to update our code a little bit. Breaking changes are breaking changes, but also this is a breaking change that I would put in the appreciate column. So I think we basically just do this. And I think we can probably just do something like this on every render, because it's not going, like our window isn't going to change. So we can just say current window maybe equals this. Whoop, wrong platform. So this should give us the current window, and anywhere we're calling WebView. This we're actually gonna have to change because we need to close a specific window. But this one we can say current window emit to. So this is going to set the window color. Our creation, I don't think needs to change because we're still creating the window by instantiating the new class. Looks like it. See if this actually updates. Nope. Nope. So, are you throwing an error? Web view is not defined. Did not reload. Okay, so that's old. Let's do a refresh. Except now I have a phantom window here that I don't have a reference to anymore. Okay, so we're not getting any actual... We're not getting any errors on this side. I suspect we are... here, we're gonna stack them. This window is DevTools. This window, we'll ignore the phantom window, go away. Where are you going? We're gonna put you over here. Toss you on the side, you'll disappear eventually. Now they're stacked. Now they're stacked. 2 DevTools for 1 for each window. We don't seem to be receiving any events. So this is going to be on the event side, I think, that we need to look at. First of all, though, I want to deal with this. So we here to close the window, we set up a new handle to it, which could, if something happens and that window has gone away, clicking close is actually going to open up a new window and then immediately close it, I believe, because this also opens up a new window. So let's see what our options are here. Events can be listened to using window.listen. So we could emit an event to close it. That's not unreasonable. We can get web views. Provides APIs to create web views, communicate with other web views, and manipulate the current web view. Oh. Okay, so there's a get current for web view and window, and there's a get current for window. Interesting. I could see that getting slightly confusing. That is something that I would want to try to keep track of a little bit better, because I did sort of like, it used to be a 1-to-1. V1 was very much 1-to-1. One web view, one window. We have on stream maybe a month or 2 ago now. I think this is with Amr. We had Amr on the stream, and we went through a PR that he had been working through, which allowed you to create multiple web views in a window. So I think that's the reasoning, is that you could have multiple web views and you can get the current web view. So you could have 4 web views, and current web view would be relative to whichever web view is running that code. Current window would be the thing containing all of them. So there is a reasoning and there's a difference for them. But if I'm just blindly doing a get current, I can see myself accidentally making that mistake. There is the what you can do with the current web view and the current window is definitely going to be different. So I don't think it's going to be a foot gun that you can ship to prod. Knock on wood. So if we do get current, that's going to give us the current class, or the current. Well, it's going to give us a window object. Yeah, window class. So, I don't actually see any close here. Close request event. There's, I guess once we get the window, search for close. Yeah. So on the so closing a window does also emit an event. Okay. Oh wait, get current close. Note this emits a close requested event. So like, could we get current primary monitor? I don't know if I want to create a list of window instances. Like theoretically, we could hold on to a list of window instances. Would there be a reason to switch it to that? So like in our state here, we're holding the ID, the color, and the alpha. We could also theoretically hold on to that instance, so we're not recreating it every time. I'm curious how that would end up feeling. Back. So it's actually firing off an event. So like if we would just fire off an event to close the window as well, that might be the easiest. I think that's probably going to be the easiest actually. Then we don't have to keep the instances around. We can fire out, we can do like an emit to. Now the question is, can we use that same close requested? If we event name, is there any like we could theoretically fire off these events. We could call these events. Since we're not importing them though, or not using them directly in any way, these could theoretically change and just break things. So we could have our own custom event that we emit and then we listen for. And then when we are listening for the event, we will be in that specific window, so we can do a get current and close it. It feels almost like it would be nice to be able to fire off these directly, like programmatically fire off a move. Actually, weird use case, I guess, but would it be weird to export these? So we export type. Tauri event. We're making a type out of it. Ah, we do. So we could do a. This is out of the event API. So we could say, import Tauri event from the events. Whoa, that's not what I would do. Wrong key combo. But switching between is that the right? Yeah, okay. I use this. We actually put the keycaps on stream. I use this keyboard for both my Mac and my Windows. Which I don't know if I'm gonna have to change that because it just messes with my head sometimes. The like keyboard macro commands, whatever you want to call them, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, they're slightly different and it just messes with my head. So this is a different key, but the same functionality on my Mac. All right, so Tauri event. Nope, not that copy. Control copy. I was literally just saying that. So I don't think we're gonna need to do this bit or this bit anymore. We can do a basically this bit. Current window dot emit 2, and we are going to target the window ID, and we are going to. I don't think we need a payload, but we do need an event, and that would be the Tauri event, and we want to request a close. Let's get rid of these, and where'd my Tauri window go here? I think it reloaded, right? Yep. It did the hot module reload. So let's do a refresh. So unfortunately, I also lost my handle to this one. Oh well. Now I should be able to do that and then that. That bit works. But on the other end of things, I think our listening is also not working. So if we look at this specifically, pretty sure we're logging events. We're not seeing any of those logs. So I believe we fixed part of it. We're sending it correctly down. Now we need to deal with the receiving end of it. So let's go look at that. We're gonna end up fixing all this in one fell swoop. See, we're listening for event.payload. And I believe that has changed. Okay, we're here. We're already here. We need to await listen, and we are going to be listening for an event. And we have a handler, then there's options. Event listening options, what are those? Target. So we might, this feels like it should work. We are listening to an event. We are handling it. This is now a promise. Our TypeScript, or we don't have any TypeScript in here, so that's not helping us out. I suspect that that's the issue. We don't need to deal with an unlisten because we're not like unmounting in any way.
I don't know if I actually need to do this. Because we just need it to run, and it's just firing off a promise, and we're just hoping it all works because of promises. Now I don't know if this is gonna reload. Okay. If we do a refresh. All right. Well, we've lost the handle to this anyways, so. Right. Go away. Just gonna have all these like random floating windows over there. When the Rust process restarts, it'll end up closing those. So it's not a big deal. Here we go. Okay. Await is only valid in async functions. Makes sense. Are all of these now? I want to say that they were originally promises, and I was just firing off the listen because I don't actually even need this on listen either. So I think this should work. So if we open and we look here and we fire off an event, we aren't getting any events. Let's check the window creation. So we're just doing set window color, doing set windows, and we're emitting to the window ID, and we're doing window color change. So here we're listening for window color change. It is possible with this emit 2 that we also need to listen to the. Let's go back. Let's go back. Where did I close it? Here, this. Not this. We want the migration guide, which is here. Migrate, upgrade from V1 event system. So emit function now emits an event to all event listeners. We added a new emit to function to trigger an event to a specific target. So if we're calling emit 2, it is going to a specific target. And now we have a listen global, which was renamed to listen any, and now listens to all events regardless of the filters or targets. There's also this emit filter, which filters based on event target instead of window. Let's double check to make sure that we don't have any Rust that's handling anything here. I don't think we do. Still have an old command in there. Haven't used that yet. So we don't have any Rust that's handling anything. I think this emit filter and listen global and listen any, I think those are specifically on the Rust side. So this is the only thing that we care about. So on the event, kitty sitting on my foot. We have an event that is being fired off, and we are listening to it on the JavaScript side of things. We only have listen and once. When we listen, we don't actually need the promise to resolve because we don't need a handle to this unlisten on the event. We don't actually need to remove we don't have to remove the listener because we don't have any component unmounting happening. So listen is our only option. And the thing that I think potentially changed is the event listening options, of which we can specify a target. So that might be what we need to dig into. Simon says there, here I can also do this. I made this, I might as well use it, right? There are listen functions for WebView and Window as well, though the global event listen should work. It might be worth testing it if specifically the Window or the WebView listeners don't work. Okay. Got it. So we're looking at the API for the events. Since we're looking at like the generic events, I think what you're saying, Simon, is that this listen is like a global listen in which we could also look at the the window listen. So what is the difference? Is that a new API? Has that always been like that? Or is that a switch with this event system? So we can listen to an event, and I suspect what's happening here is that we're still using like that global listen, but we're effectively specifying the options. So it's defaulting to the current window or the current web view because so like it's effectively the same API. It's just that we're like pre-filtering it almost. So the other one is a global one. I bet you you're right. I bet you that's going to be the ticket here, because we are specifically doing an emit to a specific target. So we need on the listen side to listen for an event at a target. But the global one should, yeah, okay, that's what you're saying too. The global event listen should work because the default should be, all right, we're going to open up both these. We're kind of bouncing back and forth between these. References, JavaScript API, event. Let's keep event open. Okay, so event listen imported from event. I understanding it to be effectively the global event listener. It takes in options, of which the options are either string or event target. It defaults to kind any. I mean, that's entirely possible that there's some issue with the default effectively, because is any not actually handled correctly. So if we look at, which one are we on now? We're on event. If we look at the window, we're gonna have the window and the web view. What are we doing with it? We're listening for the window, we're receiving an event, and then we are changing the color. So I guess this is technically a web view. I mean, theoretically, I don't think it would matter for what we're doing. So we just need the payload. this actually brings up an interesting question. I guess it's not that interesting. Emit2 takes a target. The target can be a string or like an actual instance of one of these things, I believe. And so this string ends up needing to represent one of the instances or a label of a thing. If we now are thinking about web view and window in a more separate way, new web view window, we're giving it an ID. That's returning a new web view in a new window. So when we call emit2 on that ID that we used to instantiate it, is this the web view ID? That's got to be the web view ID, right? I mean, we could try both. Let's throw both in there and just see. But I suspect what we're actually going to want is the web view. But web view, let's see, classes, web view. That doesn't have a listen though. And window events, never mind. Window events, is there, yeah, web view events, okay. Got it. So on the web view, we can listen. Oh, it's gonna be slightly different, but I guess, yeah, we'll copy it. We'll just drop it here and go from there. Hey, how's it going? And I feel like I always struggle with your name. It's gonna stick one of these days. Shoaib? I got it right the last few times, didn't I? Now I feel like I'm butchering it. Shoaib? Man, I'm gonna need to. Okay, we're doing it. Where's my note app? I am going to write down how to pronounce it because I am sick of screwing it up. I knew. Bam. I don't know why description is not a separate header. So I think it would be Shoaib Sam. I think that would be a way that I can remind myself how to pronounce it. Okay. You have a question for Tauri 1.5. Isn't there a way to not use invoke handler in the main file? It's not very clean and can't code split. Invoke handler. That's the command handler. I don't think so. Where is my? I mean, this is gonna be slightly different, but I was in it. I closed it. So we're talking about this invoke handler. I don't think so. It's not very clean and you can't code split. So I suspect what you're thinking when you say code split. The intent here is that you would want to, say in a debug build, have a debug command. Is that what you're thinking when you say code split? I'm not sure if you can do multiple invoke handles either. It's a builder. That might be the first thing I would try. Yeah, you should be able to put it wherever you want. I think, So Simon, what I'm understanding of the question here is, say we have a greet and we have like a, use cases. There might be a different way to approach this, but like a greet debug. So the idea here is that now we have 2 handlers. We don't necessarily want greet debug to be in the release build. Okay, so is it specifically just the tedium of doing it? Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is a macro too, so it's already doing a lot. I don't know how great it would be to overload it more, but this would be a question that I would have. Like, if this would be something that we only want to be in the debug build, but not in release, how do we handle that? Is this generate? Yeah, okay, command 1. Why is that different color? Name string format. I don't understand why it's making a different color. Yeah, I don't think there's a different way to do it. If it was possible to pass a function, it would be awesome. Yeah, I don't know that there's another way to do it. And I think a lot of the this API is sort of driven by the fact that this is already doing a lot because it's a macro. So this macro, the benefit is doing a whole bunch of code stuff for us that we don't need to deal with. So it removes some of the tedium. But also it becomes more involved to deal with it. To like on the code side of things, to change things around or make it more generic or improve the API. It's more to deal with. But also, like discovery of this. I mean, it's already like this is already doing some discovery and whatnot, and like this is handling it. Yeah. Simon said it much better than what I said. So like, if you put too much magic in it, I suspect it's gonna end up. The magic mostly will work, but when it doesn't, you'll blow up your house. The fireball is cool until your house explodes. Lightning storms and all those other magical things are cool, and then you blow up your house and question your choices. So that's sort of the background in it. I don't know that there's. I mean, if that's something you're, if you're specifically really interested in improving that, nobody's gonna say no, don't jump into it. But that's the reasoning why that API is set up the way it is, because it's already doing a lot, because it's a macro, and it becomes incredibly annoying to develop. But the DX is worth that annoyance. So, okay. We're listening now. This should be, as I understand it, effectively like a global listening. We can instead listen in this web view, and we're going to do a get current. I'm going to say as get current. Oof, wow. Window. No, web view. I'm already goofing it up. That way, because I might end up handling both. And we need to switch it to this. It's a window dot. Okay, so this is the other bit. I think this is actually changed too. I think I was in one of the support forum posts, and myself and ICB were trying to help somebody, and I think the window events have moved. So that's probably the other bit of it too. I just remembered that. Let's just so we don't get these random errors. Let's check out the window object real quick. Double check that we're getting what we are expecting. I don't need these dev tools. I want these dev tools. And we are getting window. It's saying failed to load the resource. Oh, fave count. Okay, yeah, sure. So on window, there should be like an __ Tauri. There's an internals version and a externals. So the internals is like private API, but for the most part, what the external or the public API is doing is just referencing it. Did I miss it? Here, Tauri. Okay, so it is under Tauri. Okay. Tauri event. So we are getting it. We should be getting the right APIs there. So then if we do this, and we say const, I'm gonna have to redo this, equals window, window dot Tauri dot web view. Did it again. Come back. By the way, is Shoaib Sum? Am I saying that right? It's written down. If I have to, I will open it up every time you stop by. I am prepared to do that, so I get it right. Web view and window. Web view, get current. And we want to listen for this. And we should be getting, oh, I guess that's the other bit. Oh, wait. So we were getting an event and I was just doing event.payload. So the destructuring, so there's actually something else within there too. I was presuming like that top level was considered the event. But technically this is still gonna work. And what we're gonna say is, this is the web view payload. And I don't actually need event here. There should just be payload now. So this code technically should work fine. And I believe this is effectively considered the global. So if we now look here, let's clear the window. I can remove that. I don't really need that. And bring you back. Now, I think hot module reloading works here. I need to refresh this actually. There we go. Web view payload. Yep. So Simon, that's what it is. So the default on the global is an any, is the any event type. It appears that something with the default isn't actually listening to everything. So if we would say we're going to listen to the window color change, event is this, and our gotta look at the API for that. Event listen. The listen takes an options. Options is target, and we can give it a string or an event target. And the event target is The string is provided event target dot any label is used. Okay. It's a little bit confusing. Based on the API documentation, my previous code with global should definitely work. Agreed. Since it's for any target, but I know we've had issues in the past where events getting emitted to. Got it. Okay. I agree with you, and I think it should work, and I don't think I have an issue with my code. It appears to potentially be a bug because I am only getting the WebView payload, which is coming from the current WebView. So I'm emitting to the WebView, and I've got a global, and I was tweaking it to have a target to see if that make a difference. But using the listen on the current WebView, that does work. So I'm getting this, only this. So if we do a target, the get current what should we call it? So say current WebView equals this. And let's go ahead and just do this. And so our current WebView so what I'm looking for is the classes interfaces. So we have a get current, which is going to give us the WebView, and the WebView has a, I want the label basically. So like this. So once we have, okay, so that's a constructor for a new WebView. Properties, okay, label. So I think I can do, once I have the current WebView, I think I can say something like this, current WebView dot label. So I think that's going to give me the same thing. Oh, this is probably not going to work anyways. We're going to assume I'm right, and we're just going to do this. And let's check it. So now, if we do a refresh, we are getting a label. Okay. This should be a label for the WebView. Yeah, it should be a label for the WebView. So if we now change this, now we're getting global. Yeah. So there seems to be an issue with whatever the default is. We'll have to open up a bug report or something like that. What if we had 1,000 commands? We need to list them all in the macro. Come on, something must be done about this. I would be very impressed if you have 1,000 commands. I'm assuming if you have 1,000 commands, you're probably splitting up your code into separate files, right? My Rust isn't good enough that I know this can be done offhand, but how I would think about it with, how I would think about it with JavaScript would be, if you have a separate file and you have a handful of separate files that all have exported code, you already have 15 and growing. Nice. If you're like listing these all as like public functions, you can do like a create import kind of thing, or a like glob import of them. I wonder if you can pass that glob import to the handler. It's, Simon, maybe you're oh, that's a good point too. I forgot plugins are becoming more of a first-class citizen. I would qualify it as. That might make a lot of sense. In the same vein though, now you still end up having to manually register them all, right? You're just, instead of pulling them all into or writing them all in the main file, you're adding them all in separate files and then putting each plugin into the main file. Organization-wise, that isn't bad though. I wonder though if you could do like a blob import of all of them. That would probably be the first thing that I would personally look at. If you're not ready to make the jump to plugins. Yeah, it's all still manually registered. It's just improved organization. That makes sense. Yep. And this, to be clear, this would be if you are creating separate plugins. So if you have a reasonable way to bucket these commands into separate plugins, you're still manually registering them, but it might improve the organization. So you poked the Discord and Mo pointed you to a PR they made yesterday that fixes it. Oh, okay, cool. Nice. But honestly, like, this is a good shout for this situation, for my use case. Much prefer this anyways. So, like, we can just get rid of this. I mean, conceptually, I like the idea of having a global listen, and like these filtered or pre-filtered or would be a good way to describe them. More focused versions of listen, but differentiating between them and being aware that like there's those interrupt between them. I think would it make sense to do that within, like, it might make sense to note that here. So we have in the overview here, we say the event system allows you to emit events to the backend and listen to events from it. Oh, okay. We do specifically say it's in the, oh, no. Okay, that's different. I wonder if it makes sense to potentially here or in other places, like in here in the listen, we have an example and we're saying, listen to an immediate event. I probably could have guessed it, just from this. I wonder if it makes sense to be more clear about to any target. To effectively note here or in the overview that this is specifically a global, now a global listener, and that the web view and the window both have their own listeners, which sort of have the target pre-filled in already. Used Tauri GraphQL in another project and you didn't need to register. Any wonder if this is any better? Yeah. So what Simon's saying, let's actually go. Let's take a look at it. I suspect we can pull it up real quick here and find exactly where Jonas is. Actually, I have no idea. It's probably under his own, right? Jonas. I don't remember how to spell his last name. Yeah. Hey. Okay. Close enough. Is it under his own name? I don't even know, to be honest. Okay, it is. Lucky guess on my part. So if we look at packages, let's look at the source. I bet you it's in the source. Plugin builder. He's making a plugin. There's some setup code, and then build. Is there commands with this? There's an init, invoke handler. Okay. We scrolled home past a whole bunch of it. Subscriptions. Yeah, so we have an invoke handler. And that's effectively I believe, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Simon. That's what I was about to say. I think this is the advanced way. And coming back around to what we were saying before, this, we're basically like decorating this and saying, hey, this is like a shorthand version. When you are doing this macro, take the shorthand version and effectively we're like code genning the longhand version. So like this is in a custom invoke handler. So rather than writing something like this, he's doing this. And then in the plugin, in the init, he's doing invoke handler this, which is the same here, but instead of using the generate handler macro, he's using his custom invoke handler. So he's still registering it. I mean, he's doing it by hand, but in an even more advanced way. I imagine there's some reasoning behind it. How old is this? 2 years ago. I'm going to go out on a limb and presume that he did it with the custom invoke handler because back in the day, macros weren't handled very well by Rust Analyzer. So Rust Analyzer, if you are using VS Code, I think it's another, like it's just a language server. But if you're using something like VS Code and you have Rust Analyzer running, it used to like just straight up not deal with macros at all. So anytime you had a macro, like things would just get wonky and errors. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that was the reasoning. He did his just rather than using the macro, he did it so he could have Rust Analyzer help him out more. But basically, long story short, plugin is still doing the manual registration of these commands. Whatever he did, he must push it. Right. Yeah. So I think no matter what we do, I don't know that there's a great way to get around having to manually register these commands. Though, like I said, the one thing that I would look at potentially is like doing a glob import or some sort of like destructuring type thing. But I don't know my Rust well enough to know if that's even possible. I would have to like try it out. Okay, so we do in emit to, where are we in? Oh, okay, we are on current web view. Listen. So what I was saying before was, I think something that would be useful would be in the main event docs, either in the listen, it may be both, but in the overview and in the listen, maybe be more clear about it. I think this is effectively what it's getting at, and now that I know, and now that y'all watching know, or if you didn't already know, now you know, I think that's what this is getting. But if we could basically say, you know, this is like a global listener, there's also the third arg takes in options, which allows you to specifically listen to targets. So a combination of event names and targets is what you're adding in an event listener for. You can use either the web view or the window class and use the listener on each one of those to pre-filter or already have that target listener or target option attached to it. Anyways, I like this better anyways. So it sounds like it was a bug. It sounds like Amr is already on the case. Sweet. We don't actually need this listen now.
Yeah, we don't need this listen. So what I think I'm gonna do is say. So the other thing I want to do is listen for the window. And I got too many W's in there. And I think what I'm going to try doing is I want to try listening for the close event. And I'm going to try calling. Wait. If we. No. It should handle it already. So if we do an emit 2, I think we can emit 2 and directly close a window. That's what we were going to try. And what it's saying is. Okay. This is going to be a good test. So like we can emit web view loaded. This is just an example, right? I think that's just an example. Where was that? Is it in window? It might be in window. I think it was around close. Was that in? Pretty sure that was in a window. Yeah, close requested event. There is a note here. I guess it's not here. Was it in web view? Is there even a close in web view? Close. Closes the web view. Okay. This wasn't the note that I was remembering. Right here. So there's a bit of an overlap. If we have a web view and we call destroy on the web view, it will close the window too. And what it's doing is it's forcing the window close instead of emitting a close requested event. So on the window side of things, I think it's basically listening for an event, and when it receives an event, then it attempts to close it. So it's like a soft close rather than a forced close. So we can do like get current.close, which closes the web view. I think we can do also. So this is specifically an event. So what's sitting in the back of my mind is the difference between the web view and the window is the web view is like the thing inside the window. If I want the window to close and I've got multiple web views, if I call webview.close, is it just going to close that one specific web view? Do I need to effectively keep track of the fact that I have multiple web views within a single window? And if I want to close the window, do I need to deal with that? That's what's sitting in the back of my mind right now. I mean, I guess that's sort of the difference between close and destroy. So we could theoretically emit an event that destroys the window. But I think what we've basically got here is we are calling party event window close, and we're saying emit it to the window ID in there, which is very similar to what we're doing here. We're not actually giving it a payload though. I don't think that matters. So if we're emitting it to the current web view. So if we have a current web view listen, we should be able to listen for the close event. I'm going to just copy this a little bit and say something like console.log event payload. And I think we should be able to then listen to that event. Now, I don't know. Do we still have the window in here? No, we don't. It is. Where did we import it from? It is on event. So there's a Tauri event.
We don't have that imported right now. So I guess let's do this. Equals window Tauri.event. So I think this is still going to give us the same reference to that. What we can say is Tauri event dot, and it's going to be the same window closed requested. Whoop. So I think this is going to give us, effectively, we're referencing like that enum value. So if the API happens to change or whatever, this should give us a more clear error that it has changed and make it easier for us to be aware of the fact that we need to fix it. So now, I did not refresh. Bye ghost window. Okay, we're going to create a new one. We are going to inspect. We are going to double check our scripts to make sure that we have the Tauri event in there. So we should be listening for the window close requested and the color change. So if we look at the console and we do a color change, we're going to get the web view payload. If we do opacity, we're going to get the web view payload. So now if we click close, we get the close requested event. And we're specifically firing off an event. So what's interesting is I would kind of expect this to just automatically close it. If we are listening for that event, does it basically overwrite the listener that we have? We can actually check that, I think. Here, let us. Where's my window here? Okay. Let's go ahead and give that a refresh. Well, all right. Well, there's another phantom one. Goodbye. Bye. All right. If we look at the window, we can see. Is that the best way? This is probably easier, actually. If we look at the event listeners on the body, we have, so we don't have a window close requested event listener here. At least I'm not seeing it. All ancestors passive blocking. Okay. I don't see. I don't see the listener attached to the DOM anywhere. I'm pretty sure this would be where it would show up. So if we do a current webview.listen, okay, well that should already be up to date. So if we would click close, it's not actually closing it because we're firing off an event. So that's interesting because if it's firing off, if that's how it handle closes and it's firing off an event, I wonder, like I wouldn't expect we need to do this. If we're emitting an event and we say current webview dot, we could probably call close here. The listeners, if you're not mistaken, don't get registered that way. They get triggered by the IPC messages. Okay, that was what I was trying to look into, and that seems to be the case, because I don't see it registered in the DOM anywhere, which is fine. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if we are trying to use the Tauri event, does that mean we can emit? Can we also emit those events and have those still triggered by the IPC messages? Like, maybe another way to say this is the IPC messages and like the Rust backend are the thing that's handling, like, rather than putting it into the DOM and having the DOM manage those event listeners and then react to them, we're effectively handling that on the Rust side of things, right? So if we emit an event to close a window, Rust is the thing that's actually going in and closing the window, right? If we want to manually emit an event, can we still have Rust react to that? That would be the thing that I would be curious about. And it sounds like you're not sure either. So maybe afterwards I poke somebody about that. That would be my curiosity. Like the fact that we're exporting it feels like it would make sense that we can do that. And it's a little bit more of an advanced use case. But I think if we look at like those events that it's listening for, nope. Do you need target? This, no. Close enough. I could actually see some, Tauri moved, resized. So when I saw window moved, I was thinking that it was handling, like you could fire off a move event and say move this window, like you basically programmatically move a window through the events. But maybe it's just more that like this thing has happened. So I guess other than the close, I guess this makes sense. This is letting us know we can listen for this event to know that this thing has happened. So it's not a emit an event to let the, how should I say this? We wouldn't emit one of these events to cause Rust or something to react to it. This is more of just an after the fact thing, that this thing has happened and you can react to that thing having happened in your web view. So you could do something like flash the window when it gets focused, and blur the window when it goes out of focus. So it's not you firing off the event. It's you listening to the fact that that thing has happened already. So that makes sense. So when we say we're going to listen to a close requested, we would listen to that event and we could still technically react to it. But I guess in our case, effectively it's going to be closed immediately after. But the use case of actually firing off the event, I think makes less sense than I was originally imagining, because we want to fire that off directly and have Rust handle it. I want to say we do have some events that can be emitted. I thought so too, and I think that was the thing that made me think of that. Like for updates, you can fire an event to trigger it to update. Yeah, so I think that's sort of the differentiation here, is that these are events of things having happened. Rust performed a thing and it's firing off event that this thing has happened. But what I was originally thinking about is emit something to do the triggering of Rust. And actually, I guess that comes back to when we do emit to. Is this even a reasonable use case? I mean, this ends up being useful on the listening side because we can listen for those events having happened. Where I'm trying to think of where I would potentially look for show hide. Okay, so there's app DPI event. Because I could have sworn we had other events that you could actually specifically fire off, or maybe that is more of a like maybe that is more of an internal API at this point. Okay. Well, I would say let's come back to it. That might be something that we look into in the future. But I think for this situation, using an emit to with one of these events is like an anti-pattern. You shouldn't be the one emitting the event. You should be calling the function to let Rust close the thing, which then emits the event to the window, letting you know that something happened. In our case, like the close, we would still effectively get this. Like this makes sense because we could listen for the close. It would be very difficult to actually inspect that it happened because we'll immediately lose our dev tools. But this doesn't make sense. In which case, we should instead do something like so originally I was instantiating a new WebView window with a label, which would then create the handle to an existing one. But the problem would happen is if it got somehow closed out of band, when you click to remove it, it would actually create a new one and then immediately remove it. I think it would immediately remove it because we were instantiating a new window and then immediately calling close on it. So maybe we just do the get all. We should have the WebView windows. If we say something like get all, that would give us a list of instances of which we should have the label on it. So if we say const WebViews equal get all, and apparently we're ready. Did it import it for us? Thank you, VS Code, I guess. So we should be able to say, let's just log it out for now. Actually, you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to log it out in case we goof up and we need to still deal with it. But what we're going to say is const target window or target a web view equals webviews.find. And we should have a specific web view here, and we are looking for a web view label which matches our window ID. And if we find one, then call target window dot close. Close is a promise. So I think we would want to do an await here, and we should be able to also just async this because, async the state. We're doing a set state, so we can async our set state in React. So we should be able to, I'm guessing at how module reloaded. We'll hit create. We get a new web view. And then we click close. We got the window and we have a label to it. So this actually doesn't give us all the windows. Interesting. So your code, it could just be const web view equals new. Yeah, so that's what I had before. And I was curious if we could do it a different way, because what would sometimes happen, like if, so we've got two windows open right now, right? We could like go into the Windows thing and just click the, like hover over the little taskbar and click close on it. So like I could click here and click close and it goes away. I still think it's here though. So in that case, when this window closed without my direct interaction here, when I would click close, it would do new web view window ID, create the window, and then immediately call close on it. So my reasoning was that if I am doing a get all, that should give us a list of web views in which I could find the web view I care about and then close it. Is that not actually a map? Is not a function. Oh, wait, web views. Windows.map on line 78. Interesting. I guess it just got into a weird state. If we do create, click close. Oh yeah, because we're getting in this weird state, I think, where it's trying to close the main window, maybe? No, we're filtering for it. I mean, either way, what's interesting is we're calling get all. We are calling get all, which is the window API. No, that should work, right? I mean, it might just make sense to go back to what we had before, what you were saying, Simon, here. Like, just go back to this. Oh. I mean, no? We are getting it. But there is only one value in there, and it's the main. Which is odd, because we definitely have the other window. I think this is like an unrelated error, just because we're getting into a weird state. Like let's just get rid of this for right now. Actually, here we'll do this. We'll do this and that and this. Let's log out this whole bit. I suspect target web view is undefined. Refresh. Oh, okay. Goodbye. Create. Now we should have two windows, right? And we click close. Target web view is undefined. We're getting an array of I guess I labeled that wrong too. It's getting an array of windows. No, it actually should be windows. I think I just labeled it wrong. So I'm importing. I'm like, that's what I was coming back to before. We've got like these listen events and get all and get current. You're going to have to be very specific when, that you're importing from window versus web view correctly. Like, it makes sense from, like, if you know it's there, do the right one. But also, I'm going to screw that up at some point, and I might have just done that here. So we're doing current window, get current. We also have a get all, which is get all windows. So this should actually say windows. So we should do this to make it more clear. So we should have a list of windows. Here, let me, well, I mean, it shouldn't make a difference, where it's just labels. Check what's in the window Tauri internals. Metadata web views, okay. So if we go here and we say window. Oh, that should be fine. Oh, I was wondering if I was blitzing window for a second there. So Tauri internals. It's the main Tauri. Here, Tauri internals. Metadata. Current web view, current window. Web views and windows. So that's what it's calling. That's what it's getting. So for some reason, it's unaware of this window. I mean, also, like, I've got all these other floating windows around here. Like the old phantom windows that haven't actually closed, but just I've lost a handle to them. Here, I mean, let's do way to just restart the whole thing. What I just did there is we've got a watcher on the Rust code, and it will either rerun the JavaScript or the Rust side of things based on which file you save in. So if I save in a Rust file, it restarts the whole Rust process, which kills the existing window. It looks like a bug then, I think. Gonna check if there's an issue. Oh, cheers, thanks. Window. So web views, windows. Yep. So if we do call a create, we should now have it again. We check window again and go to Tauri internals. Look at metadata, web view, windows. Yeah. Doesn't seem like it's, I mean, both web view and windows. Oh, interesting. So web view has a window label and a label. Okay. That's good to know. That's going to get interesting with, so if both the window label and the web view window label is the same, if you do an emit to, how is it going to know if you're passing main as your string? How is it going to know if it's you're expecting it to close the web view or the window? Is it basically a like web view wins sort of situation? But yeah, so like that's not gonna work. There might be some issue there with it, but for the time being, we are gonna just go back to what we had before. Do I still have that? Set windows, async, web view. Yep. So we're just gonna revert this a little bit here. So what that should be doing is, I don't need this async anymore. We are instantiating effectively a new handle. So in this case, theoretically our window should exist at this point. So if we click close, we're assuming it exists, potentially accidentally creating a new window if it doesn't exist for whatever reason, and then closing it. So this should work. and I think it was working before. We just broke it when I was updating, exploring the new APIs. Yep. Cool. And out of curiosity, we should, so we're seeing the payloads here. If we click close, yeah, it closes way too fast. I think what we would be seeing would be this. But it's closing so quickly that we can't even see it. We could do this. It's a soft close, right? No, not event. Alert. This window is closing. I wonder if this is actually going to prevent it from closing, in which case we could see then this payload. Let us give it a shot. I'm going to do this. I'm going to inspect it so I get the dev tools, look at the console, and we'll see if it's a close requested, which is like a soft close, which I think you can potentially prevent. Nope. Okay, doesn't. Unkit, thanks for stopping by. Thank you for the I appreciate the love. I always appreciate it. I enjoy exploring and learning, and if I can do that on stream to help others, I hope it's a win for everybody. So I appreciate your appreciation. I'm glad that this is helpful. And again, Simon's done a little bit of streaming. Simon's also on the Tauri team. If you ever ask any questions within Discord or any of the issues, I'm sure Simon, you'll interact with Simon at some point. Definitely appreciate all your work, Simon. Did I say it already? You've done some streaming in the past. I don't know that you're incredibly active with it, but I completely understand that situation. How long have I been saying I'm going to put out some videos besides just the streams? It's one of those things that, like, I know me, so I was like, I am going to set a goal and do a thing and make sure it's a goal that I can continue to do on a schedule. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be as far as I would like to take it, but it's something that I know I can continue to do on a schedule. Yeah, work taking up all your time. Yeah. So like, that's the thing. I was like, I know I can do this. I can carve out, a couple hours a week. I'm privileged to be able to do this within the hours of normal work time. I'm not actually like getting paid by work or anything, but like I can squeak it in the middle of a work day and then just make up time later. And I knew I could do that, and I could just ship it basically, and that's what we're doing. I mean, every week I vacation occasionally, but show up and do the thing, and it's not easy to continue doing a thing. Like, it's one of those situations where if you are ever interested in doing anything, showing up and doing the thing is like 90% of the battle. So yes, I completely understand. I completely understand, Simon. It would be cool too if hopefully you don't mind me saying it publicly, but if you're down for collaborating at some point, hopping on the stream or doing a co-stream or something like that, I'm interested in chatting about that. Hussam says, you don't know why anybody else is doing Tauri content. I mean, it's one of those things where there's going to be lots of smaller, I guess, niche frameworks or libs, and I'm on the Tauri team, so I'm invested in it already. So it makes sense for me to incorporate a lot of Tauri content within our stream. That's not the only thing I do. We've done a bunch of web content. I've done Blender. I learned Blender on stream. Blender is a 3D rendering, 3D modeling program, and I've done Blender, created and exported a file called a GLTF, and imported into a React 3 fiber scene. That's all completely unrelated to Tauri. It's just the fact that I'm on the Tauri team, so I've got sort of a bias or a standing interest in what Tauri is doing. And Tauri is still relatively new when you compare it to something like Electron. Electron's on what, version 15 or something, 16? I don't even know offhand. It's been around a while, so that is going to generally have built up more content over time. I'm biased, so I'm going to say I think Tauri is good. But I think it's sort of just it hasn't been around enough in the way where it's seen a lot of attention because it's a new thing that I think is really pushing, especially the app space forward. So it's got the stars. I feel like the stars are representative of the interest of people seeing it succeed. But we've only shipped V1. We're only getting to V2. There's probably going to still be a few more iterations where it really hits the point where like enterprises and bigger businesses are starting to pick it up, and you might actually be using it in your day job. Yeah, like it's not to say that people aren't using it heavily. It's just we're our own little bubble. We only see what we see. Why isn't everybody else seeing what we're seeing? And it's because the programming ecosystem or industry is much larger than our little bubble, you know? So I'll continue to do Tauri content, and I'm sure the amount of people doing Tauri content, and either in a small single stream or single video type way or more, I think will continue to expand. But I mean, even some big names have already explored Tauri. It's just they're not doing it all the time, so it doesn't seem like it's seeing that much attention. So thanks, Lasha, for stopping by. I definitely love working with Tauri as well. All right, how are we doing? We're a little over 2 hours. We fixed all the event stuff, and I think we've got a good feeling for how the event system was working. And it looks like we picked up on a couple bugs, some of which have potentially fixes in place already, which is good to see. And actually, that reminds me, have we published any? I think we've published a couple updates already, and this might actually be on I think I could potentially run like an update. We'll kill this for 1 second here. If I do, terminate, yes. There we go. I'm in the way of my terminal. Oh yeah, I used to put the terminal over here. Last time I put the terminal over here, I think that's actually a good way to go, because then I'm not sitting right in front of it. Now I need to point the right way though. And also make this bigger, because that's really hard to read in the table format. Okay, really bigger. Doesn't show previous versions, so that's not gonna help us out. I think there's some new like hot fixes or whatever out, so it might be worth updating before I would merge this in. But either way, we figured it out. We've worked through, and honestly, the APIs that we've since landed on, having run into those situations, I prefer them. Like this feels good to me. Like it has the built-in target already for that event listener, so I'm good with it. remaining thing that we wanted to look at real quick. Do we dig into that today? So we talked about commands a little bit already. We have dug into a bunch of the event system. Commands are in a similar vein. It's going over that like IPC layer as our commands. So it's less about us exploring commands specifically. So at the base of it is this IPC, and that's the part that has been revamped. I was trying to look for the way it was worded. The IPC layer has been revamped. So it's more reminiscent in function and performance to how the web view handles regular HTTP-based communication. So that's what I want to take a peek at real quick. This is the underpinning of both the events and the commands that we were looking at. Do we have any content on how the updater works? At the moment, no. It is very much on my radar, though. There's a couple pieces to the updater specifically, and it's been functional. The first in my you wrote that sentence? Oh, nice. Like this. I dig this. I mean, native English speaker, but yeah, I saw that. I'm like, whoa, that's a hefty sentence. Gets the point across. I love it. Okay. Anyways, updater. I think of the updater as like two pieces, and the first piece of it has existed since like V1 and prior, and that's the functionality that runs the like updating process. There's the security layers that are involved with it, setting up the key and all that stuff to do the thing that actually triggers the program to update. The second half of it is the hosting part of it, because when you are updating it, you're updating the whole program. So you need to put that somewhere. It's not like, I guess you could theoretically throw it up on something like Netlify, but the like functionally the way the app delivery process is handled is different than like a web app. And the web apps have seen a lot of VC money thrown at them to make that process, the DX around that process nicer. But the app side of things hasn't, at least not what I've seen. And that was kind of the part that was like in limbo. I did it again. I did this last time too. Crab Nebula is a company, a large handful of which employs people on the Tauri team. I'm not personally involved with Crab Nebula at all. But disclaimer, I know a whole bunch of people that work there. And if you're a big portion of the funded time on Tauri ends up coming through Crab Nebula. So that's why I don't have a problem like pointing them out. But one of the things that they've been working towards is that second piece. Where do you host the thing? Like you could host these files. This was sort of like the V1 way to do it. We were hosting the files, or the example was showing a way to host the files on like a GitHub release. It works. If your app was small enough, it's probably fine. But the DX around it wasn't great. And if you get any bigger than like toy app, GitHub releases starts like you hit like rate limiting issues. so management of the release assets and the like storage of them and all that stuff, that's something that Crab Nebula is they're I think they just went general availability. And here, Simon tried it out, as did I. So we both got an initial alpha preview of it, I guess would be the way to say it. So we've both played around with it a little bit, and this is sort of like the second piece to it. I think that's almost exactly what my quote was. So the DX of it is just difficult, and that's part of why I think there's lack of content for it, because it is very much dependent on your infrastructure. So if you're a small time, if you're like a single person developer working on this app, setting up a like Google Cloud platform or Amazon AWS and the whole shebang to host the thing and be able to do it without being too involved is like a full-time job. Yeah, so for these situations, I mean, if you're talking big enterprise, they're probably going to have people that can handle this for you. But anything less than that, honestly, like their pricing is pretty solid. I think this is going to work for a lot of people, and I'm excited to see where this goes. So, long story short, I currently do not have any content on how the updater works. But it is something that is on my radar and will ideally happen soon. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, IPC. Yeah, let's look at the IPC real quick. We have a little bit of time. Let's peek at the IPC, and I think that's probably what we're going to end up calling it then. I believe that is going to be in the main Tauri project, yeah. So if we specifically look at commands, I guess that lines up with, so I'm not completely deviating from the stream title. What's the important bit here? Represents a custom command, and you can see like here we have ACL. Well, that's the permission system. Within an evoke. Got a bunch of macros here. Nice. Public mod grade. Guess there's not too much here. I think maybe the better way to poke at this a little bit would be to see how the front end integrates with it. If we look at like the API tooling, and we would go look at something like we've been looking at the web view, right? Let's see how it handles the close or these listen events. So here we're importing from events. You can see there's that enum showing up. So if we look specifically at that enum, we have a file drop hover, drop canceled. Is that it that we've got in? I guess so. Okay, so the web view is only considering those events. Actually, that makes sense because I think that the web view effectively is using the window. Yeah, so here we can see all the window. There should be a, yep, close request. That's what I was looking for. So when you call close from the web view, it's effectively calling the window method instead. So we have window moved, close requested. So these are handlers. There's a, let's look at this closed requested. So on close requested, wait confirm. Okay, so we could use this dialog would block, I'm guessing is what's happening here. So we could throw this into our app, and we would be able to see it block and then see that user did not confirm closing the window. Okay, any event that prevent default ends up basically preventing the window from closing. So that's the way to, when we request that the window is closed, it is a soft request. It's not like a forced close. We can we can pop up a dialog that then allows the user to opt out of actually closing it. So let's see. So it's doing a this.listen, and we're listening for this specific event. So if we look at this is a real big class. That's what we got. So we got a class with a constructor. We are setting up with this, and it's got an invoke. And this is kind of what I wanted to peek at. I'm suspecting that this hasn't actually changed too much from the JavaScript side of things. So I'm guessing that it's more of an implementation detail at this point. When we call invoke, we're effectively calling like a stringified, or like a hashed a reference to like a hash effectively. So like we have a table of all of these things we can invoke, and we call invoke, and then Rust basically handles it for us. So that communication, I'm guessing, is more on the Rust side of things. So we could look at the Rust side of things, but I don't know that it is actually going to, like, I mean, it's going to be different, but like functionally what ends up happening, I don't think is going to, like, get to that point. I don't think has really changed. And that's what I was specifically curious about. So all of these functions are setting up a bunch of static functions, and like we've got this listen, and we are handling a Tauri event, and here's, you see, like we've got a kind window. So we have that global listen API that we were looking at. When we call, let's go back to our code real quick here. So when we call current web view.listen, we are effectively calling the global listen API, and it's just, it has the, okay, let's go back. Why did I accidentally click that? Where'd it go now? Please hold. Listen. This listeners, and here. Okay, listen. All right, let's try that again. There's a handful of listen methods, and what you're using is dependent on kind of the context. There's a global listen, and then there's a listen that's attached to both the window and the web view. The global takes 3 args, the third of which has an options and a target. So you can set a specific target in the global listener. That is effectively what each of the window and the web view are doing. They are taking the global listen API and setting that target for you. So as part of this constructor, we already have the context to know what the label is for this specific window or this specific web view. And as part of that, we had previously the question, if we have a label that represents both the window and the web view, how is it going to handle that? If we call listen or we call emit to, it looks like we can also specify a kind, and that kind would represent the window or it would represent the web view. And that's how we can, using the global listener, handle these very specific use cases, as opposed to effectively using these like pre-filtered versions of them. I feel like I'm gonna prefer this API using the current WebView.listen, but it's good to know, you know. That's annoying. Simon, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for handling all of my my questions and the poking into time permitting. Yeah, no worries. I mean, whenever in the future, if it makes sense for both of us, I'm open to it. That's as far as we've gotten. If anybody don't have any expectations, people. If it happens, it happens. But I am open to it. Anyways, yeah, thanks again for stopping by, Simon, and thanks for following up on a bunch of our questions or seeing what issues lie below. So this listen is just calling these global ones. So we have like these global pieces, and we have this global invoke, and essentially what we're doing is there's an improved DX in sort of like having these like pre-scoped versions of these methods. So if we look at, we can probably look at something like, probably in the core. I bet it's in the core. I think we have an invoke in core. Yeah. So it is, and this is the lifting the private APIs into the public space as part of the window object. We have some of these functions already. So what we're doing when we actually use this package is just lifting that into basically public scope, making it easier to more accessible. So it's calling invoke from that's actually stored on the window object, and I suspect, yeah, everything here is just calling this previously defined invoke. So we are going to actually need to look at, I don't think it's actually going to be in the API at all. I believe it's in bundler. So bundle. No, maybe not. Bundle. What is it under? CLI, WebDriver, bench. Maybe that one's in the core Tauri. So basically when Tauri builds your project, it's creating a binary. That binary, along with many other things, it's taking the HTML, CSS, JavaScript that you give it, and it's basically doing like a little bundling on top of it. Part of which is setting up like the Tauri window. And that, let's search. I knew at one point, code search isn't gonna work on that window because I don't have it. I'm not signed in on this browser. There's something that's setting that invoke on the internals. Platform, not tokens, resource. This might be it actually. No, runtime, web view. Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna search in a separate browser real quick. Please hold. Invoke. So Invoke has. So we have Swift. We have it set up in Swift. We have Invoke Handler. Ooh, Invoke Handler. IBC mod. That may be it. No, that's probably not it. Invoke Responder. Class. Kotlin. I feel like I'm just spouting random words now. So with mobile, we have implementations of this Invoke in Swift and in Kotlin now to handle iOS and Android, respectively. In the API core TS, is that it? Oh, that's what we already. All right, let's search for. Let's say Tauri internals. We've looked at this on stream before, and I'm pretty certain that it's going to be the same. Okay, core Tauri scripts. Tauri scripts. There, this feels like the right spot. So IPC. You'll see a couple notes. 4 months ago. Okay, so it's had a little bit of touch, and there's different patterns and ways that we can handle like the communication layer. There's benefits and like pros and cons for each. So some of it is like operating in an iframe and different types of sandboxing. And specifically what we're interested in is the invoke. Did I pass it already? I might have passed it already. Next time, if you can implement a database for mobile, it would be a great stream request. Implement a database for mobile. We'll put it on the list. So I think, I'm not going to say no, but I think there's a handful of steps that we need to, if even just for me, get to that point. I haven't done a whole ton of mobile dev for multiple reasons. We did do Android on stream. Jonas and I went through it when it was still alpha. I think like right as it was going alpha. Probably like 6 or 8 months ago now, maybe. Feel free to give that one a watch. That had been the first time I had done Android development in like years, many years. And as I'm sure you're aware, handling things are going to be a little bit different in mobile. I've been particularly interested in like local first apps. So one way you can achieve sort of local as the primary function is that you can use SQLite. And I think for those cases, that's a really interesting use case. That would probably be the spin that I would be interested in diving into, because I already have I have potential use cases to wire in SQLite to an app and then potentially try it on mobile. And Hussam is kind of saying you can use Rust for the database handling. I think that's going to end up being, we have bindings to Kotlin and Swift. There is sort of 2 different code paths you can end up taking it, where if we're talking just a database, you don't necessarily have to have the database bundled with your app. I think there's potentially use cases for it, but I don't know that we need to be like starting up a full Postgres or something in each app. If you watch that stream, nice. If you just need a database, you could theoretically just use sort of web fetch, typical web based expectations around the database to where you're firing off a request to like Planiscale DB or something like that, where you're saving data in a database in the cloud somewhere. Like that's probably the obvious, like, how do you deal with database stuff? It's the same as if you were doing a desktop app or a web app. You talk to basically an endpoint that handles that database stuff for you. So your SQLite for Android, I think that would be the thing that I would be interested in, because I feel like that would be the main use case for, I want to have a database embedded into my app. I'm not sure if like SQLX or anything like that has that all built in. Isn't this Rust SQL plugin using SQLX SQLite under the hood? That would probably be the thing that I would poke around with to start. The other thing that I'm kind of curious about is for my personal use case, if I want to use SQLite and I want to build an app but also have a web app, ideally you want to have those integrations not be drastically different, because that might be painful. So if there was a way that we could the integration with SQLite would just be dependent on the context it's running in, I think that would make sense. And it feels like it would make sense to run SQLite through the Rust side of things. Probably SQLX, but I have no idea how that integrates with mobile. I don't know if you know, Usam. But that would probably be the spin that I would take on it. So TBD. We would take a whole bunch of streams to get to that point. I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but we do want to explore mobile stuff, and that's going to be definitely one of the directions to start taking things. And I have personal use cases for it too. So I suspect SQLite will happen in some respects. You don't think it works with ARM? Those would be that would be the thing that I would be curious about. I think the storage mechanisms on Android and iOS are much different. So that would probably be the bits that we'd end up digging into on stream. Okay, so I guess finishing up this little bit here, we've got, and feel free to, if you got more insight, Hussam, we can keep coming back to it. But let's see. Is it in core? It's got to be in core. Transform, convert, invoke. Here we go. So this is kind of the bit that, if we look at like the commit history here, we had a little bit of digging into it. I guess there's a fair amount of like touches here. If we look at the blame and we look at an invoke 4 months ago, and then a window invoke, and then 6 months ago, and then like years ago. I don't think this has actually changed too much. I think it's just been shifted around a little bit. And I don't think this all feels like just shifting it around a little bit. So I don't think we're actually like changing too much. But for the most part, what we are doing is we are defining this invoke. And there's considerations of like what is the mechanism to communicate with the backend, because there's slightly different ways you can do it. Like the different patterns, isolation versus is it brownfield or whatever. That's like these switches. So here's action. So if it's an IPC, you're using this action. Otherwise, there's a queue. Interesting. Okay. But the invoke ends up calling IPC. And I'm guessing that IPC... Where's that set? Yeah, so like isolation message. Yeah, if pattern is isolation, then you have an event listener, and it's doing like message passing through that through post message. There are downsides to doing that, but if you're particularly interested in the security benefits from it, then it might be worth the downsides. And here you can like object freeze. That's not what we want though. So maybe IPC protocol. Post message. Nope. Okay, so that's all post message. Did I miss the IPC definition in here? No. Where's IPC defined? Process IPC message function. Like we've got a bunch of ifs in here too, right? Function. Yeah. Oh, this is a function and not an iffy. Got it. And I don't know if that's like the way you say it. That's the way I ended up saying it. IIFE, immediately invoked function execution. So the idea is it was much more of it was a pattern that would be more commonly seen in earlier JavaScript days, because when the page loaded, you wanted to immediately fire off JavaScript. So like fire off a function the moment the page loads. There's improved ways to handle that now, so you see that less often. But it's not like that's not uncommon. All right, so invoke, transform, callback. Where? Oh, wait, oh, no, UID. Where's IPC defined? I'm completely missing where IPC is defined. Isolation message. There's a bunch of functions. Okay, here, IPC. So invoke ends up firing off IPC, and here you can see there's the different patterns: brownfield, isolation, and then error handling. There's object freezing. There's like 3 or 4 of them. So what I think for the most part, error default console error. Is brownfield the default? I think brownfield is the default. Send isolation message, otherwise. Okay. So it queues up messages until it's ready, and then once it's ready, it just sends it directly. So it's using the send isolation message if it is in the isolation pattern. Otherwise, I think the default is this post message. I think the post, I think we're getting to the point where this is where it differs. If we look at the get blame, post message. Okay, so it used to be on Tauri post message. I think that's been around for a while. So like 2 years ago. So like I think most of the JavaScript side of stuff hasn't changed too much, and I think it's handling more on the Rust side is where we are seeing Whoop. Oh, what did I do there? I like clicked and dragged at the same time. Looping this all back around, we have a revamped IPC. It is using the post message, and I don't think much has actually changed from it. At least on the JavaScript side of things. So if you're importing the API or otherwise calling invoke through the JavaScript APIs in the web view, that functionality or that integration hasn't changed too much. It seems like it's mostly like shifting things around. But I think the way it's handled in the Rust side of things is really what's changed. And what those changes end up involving is how it's delivering that message and the custom protocol that it's using. So if we look at this pull request, we saw this last time, I think. So if we look at the files changed, we'll probably see some of the so there's the tooling. If we look at the API changes, it's just kind of shifting things around here. We're not actually changing like functionality. And that's the API doc. Yeah. So like we didn't actually change much on the front end part of it. It is probably all going to end up showing up in like Tauri. So some of it is we're dealing with Android. So like that's a thing. But if we look at like the core, it used to take a command in args, and now we're taking a payload. Is that functionally changing anything though? So like, I guess maybe embedded within args, that might have just been embedded within args. So IPC protocol is all new. And this is probably the yeah, here we go. So like window Tauri post message. Use custom protocol for IPC if the flag is set to true. And the reason the custom protocol is important is, as I understand it, deep linking is kind of dependent on the custom protocol stuff as well. So deep linking would be when we do like HTTP:// that is basically a way to inform the thing processing it that it is like that's the transport protocol that it should use. With deep linking and with our like custom protocol, if we go back to these events, these events, you can see this bit right here, this part of it resembles like an HTTP type syntax. Instead of having HTTP or HTTPS on the front of it, we've got Tauri. That's the custom protocol bit. And with deep linking, you can use like that custom protocol as a way to inform or register within the operating system that when you click on a link that has this specific protocol in it, open it in the app. Don't open it up in your browser. Open it up in the app. So there's you need to like define this custom protocol and then have a way to register that custom protocol for your app. So I don't think this is like a Tauri specific thing. As I understand it, it's just something that's difficult to do, and what we're trying to accomplish here is make that easier for any app to do. So what we see here now is a custom protocol where we're effectively doing a fetch. We're convert file source command and IPC. So we're posting data. And we have some like considerations for if it's Android or not. So what we're doing is a window.ipc.post message. Okay. I got it. So if you use custom protocol, so if we're basically in custom protocol land, or we're doing Android or Linux, we have to do this fetch with the custom protocol. Otherwise, we can do a post message. And this here comes back to this comment. It's more reminiscent in function and performance to how a web view handles regular HTTP-based communication, because we are quite literally using a fetch method within the web view window. We still can use the post message, and I think it's the isolation pattern that makes greater use of it. Post message is something that's particularly used when you're like opening up. I think you can use it in iframes, or if you're opening up separate like pop-up windows. So you'll see it commonly, or more commonly, in like OAuth type flows. I think that's when it uses the post message, because it pops open a window, you do your things, and then it like post messages back to the window that opened it. So it already has a lot of those like security expectations baked into it. But I suspect that the custom protocol is going to be more often used, maybe? It's very much gut. Don't quote me on that, I guess. So I think we're almost at 3 hours. I think that's probably a good place to call it. I'm probably need to get back to doing some work. Next week. What do we do next week? We dug pretty deeply into IPC and the commands and events. I think that's probably the bulk of what jumped out at me when we were first digging into this. It might be worth looking at the multi-web view stuff. It is still behind an unstable cargo feature flag, which is fine. Makes sense to me. But last time we tried it was actually, I think I mentioned this previously, but Hammer came on the stream and we went through it in a PR. So like, there's not a great way to recreate that situation, because we were using like combinations of multiple different PRs and working branches and whatnot. Now it's behind a flake. We might be able to make it easier to recreate. So that might be something that we explore. That updater stuff, I know there was, and that eventually database stuff. I suspect we're going to do a bunch of Tauri stuff, a lot of Tauri stuff in the near term here. We have options. Again, sorry, I've got cat hair. The upside, cats are cute. I mean, I guess if that's your thing. We had a cat visit us earlier, but I'm now covered in cat fur, which hopefully doesn't come through too much on stream, but I'm covered in cat fur and now it's like floating around my face. Anyways, yes, we have options. So I don't know what we'll do. It might end up being in the multi-web view, but we'll definitely we should be here next Tuesday. If you have any other ideas, I'll make note of the ones that came up today. If you have any other ideas, feel free to leave it in the comments for anybody following up and watching the VOD.
and we do some more Tauri stuff, at least until it's really through release. At least probably a handful of weeks through release full. I think we'll be very heavy Tauri on the stream, but it's fun. It's okay. Thanks for stopping by. Next Tuesday, again, we'll do something probably Tauri related, but definitely next Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Bye.